This is Trophy Gold, Leviathan's Bridge, Part 3. I'm going to do a quick recap of what happened last time, and then we'll do a little bit of character recap and housekeeping, and then we will start playing. So last time, your characters began your exploration of the Goblin Enclave of Seeker's Rest, and importantly, you began to integrate yourselves into their little society. And that was one of the set goals, which was to be accepted as a visitor. And you all succeeded at that. You all have had different encounters with different types of people in Seeker's Rest. But ultimately, the one that sort of propelled the incursion forward is Korkaluk's arranged marriage to a goblin youth, or proposed arranged marriage, betrothal to a goblin youth, and that goblin youth and his father have been particularly helpful in helping you find and indeed reach the upper portion of the island, or of the floating city. And so we kind of ended like right there. Another thing that happened that is a sort of tangential thing, or a side thing at least at this point, is that our friend the siren turned back up, much friendlier, seemingly friendlier, and invited you to a dinner. He happens to live around the corner, relatively speaking, and so there was an invitation extended. And a few other little things that were worth noting that I recall. You met and defeated Grandmother Greenteeth, the sort of mermaid, the skeletal undead mermaid who claims to have founded Seeker's Rest. You met a shark beastbitten named Mako, who had some advice to share with Osto. And what else? Was there anything else that kind of like, there's so many like little tiny things, but I think I got the big picture ones, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm just trying to recall where we left off. Was it at the opening, the entrance to the temple?
Yeah, no, you are at basically the start of the bridge that leads to the temple, and I'll kind of recontextualize this once we get there. I do want to know, though, out of character, is it your plan to in fact take up the siren on his invitation? And B, if so, are you going to do that after this is over, or are you going to like interrupt the incursion to go do that? You can take it in whatever order you want. Thoughts?
I think Ethelinda would urge people to go on time, because previously he's been mercurial and killy. he for basically no reason killed that couple on the dance floor, so don't give him a reason, maybe.
So that's a yes to dinner, but we better be on time. That's what you're saying?
I think so. Or maybe he would just take offense if we showed up much later or something.
I can't recall. Did he give you a time frame?
It was like an hour or something.
Oh, so it's like really soon. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, no, what I had done is I was trying to like, I don't know if we should go with him. Great, dinner. And I didn't want to necessarily go with him in that moment, and was trying to like vamp.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
see you in a bit.
Stall a little bit. Yeah. But it sounds like Ethelinda, you would be okay with going then?
Yeah, I would go.
And preferably sooner rather than later.
Yeah, depending on what his assumptions are.
I mean, the siren can always eat. So I don't think you have to worry about that too much.
Okay, so just whenever, I guess, then.
Yeah. I just want to, I'm mostly interested if you know, now that you've found the upper reaches of Seeker's Rest, of the Heart Tree, in fact, you can get back to it if you need to, is kind of what I'm getting at. Like, so you can leave this part of the incursion and go do that and then come back, or since you're here, you could just proceed. So.
I am fine either way. Drew didn't hear you.
How about now? Good, thanks. Presumably we know the way back to this point, so if we don't get eaten, easy enough to get back here.
And if I recall, did the siren kind of give us vague directions on where his like down the street?
Yes.
And
yeah, he maybe it was off screen, but I'll tell you that what he told you is there is a fixed like sort of rocky outcropping coming up from a shallow part of the sea. You can row a boat out to that, and he says there's a grotto there where his lair can be found.
I mean, dinner in
not his
Siren's
lair, his very welcoming home.
I was gonna say dinner in a Siren's Cove sounds like a wonderful time. So
yeah, well, if there's no time limit, we can always do this and then just go.
Yep, you can, there's no like pressure to get this incursion done. So
well, we should probably bring a house gift of some sort, right?
You know, I should have kept the goat.
Yeah, something in that salt market, maybe.
well, I was planning on pretentiously re-seasoning all the food because it sounds like he's a guy that is offended very easily. So I'm sure it's going to be fine.
So, getting a boat out, you have little canoes, maybe not the best boats to go out into the actual like sea, but you have made friends, Korkuluk, with a group of goblins who fashion and repair giant tortoiseshell vessels. So maybe you could grab one of those. I think that would be perfectly fine. We don't need to role play that or anything. So I'll just ask you: do you want to go in separate canoes, or do you want to go in one large tortoiseshell boat?
I like the idea of the shell.
Yeah, it's a good image. All four of us jammed into a coracle.
Yeah, so you're in this turtle shell coracle, and you are, you're I guess, are those rowed or sails or both? We should just look it up.
I think only paddled. They're circular.
Ah, indeed, yeah. Yeah. It would have to be a pretty big turtle, right? Yeah. So you're paddling out in your tortoiseshell coracle, and it's a big one. I think it's probably like the size of like a bed. You know, it's like that kind of size, and you're all kind of like on your knees, like paddling out. And you are heading in the direction that you were told this sort of cove would be. And you're not seeing it. Now, this is a sort of gray, misty place. And so there's a chance that perhaps you just you don't have a good, range of vision. But you're not actually seeing it. Let's just start with that problem. What do you all do? Who has a skill that might be helpful? Say.
Get skill in obfuscation. So if it's concealed or camouflage,
that could be a good one. Yeah, absolutely.
I am also skilled in that of illusion. Would that be something we could investigate as well?
I think between the two of you, between your obfuscation skill and your illusion skills, that will be sufficient for you to realize that yes, in fact, the cove is magically hidden. How do you, at the start, I'll just ask you both, how do you know this? Like, how do you pick up on this? What makes you realize, oh, the siren doesn't want to be found necessarily by other people?
I maybe was just scanning the edge of the swamp as it goes out into kind of the coastal area, and in watching where it forms into sand, I start to see a repeat. Maybe that crab is moving identically to that other crab over there in unison, like a glitch on the screen. And so maybe there's a area there.
I love it. Anything to add, Corklook?
I was picturing, you know how water ripples will go and echo back? That ripples are echoing back even though it looks like nothing is there in the water.
Nice. And so you do pick up on the fact that there is something out here. And as you row in that general direction, this sort of shimmer of illusion starts to fall away as you get close. And you see, in fact, that it's essentially like a very large, like kind of rocky, so it's like a little island basically, but it's just rock, right? And you will notice that there have a couple of ships. You'll see the wreckages of a few ships crashed against the rocks, long ago cracked open and now covered with barnacles and seaweed. But that's sort of what you're greeted with as you come up to the rocks. You just see the wreckages of these ships. Asta, what do you do?
Did we bring Corklook's fiance?
No, it's just the four of you. Yeah, it's just the four of you.
Kind of just as preparation, I think I'll take my rope and fasten us somewhere a little bit further out so that we don't get drawn into a trap, perhaps.
I like that. Yeah. So you maybe pick like the furthest point off this like rocky sort of rocky little island and tie off there.
Right.
Okay. Ethelinda, what are you doing?
I wonder, maybe I would just call out to the siren and say, we're here.
Is that what you say? We're here?
Yeah, loudly.
You will notice that no, take a hunt roll. We'll see. Give me a hunt roll first.
Okay. I don't think I have anything that's would help. And 2.
You encounter something terrible. You call out and there's no reply, but you do notice that there is a sort of like a tall, like kind of a tall sort of rock formation on one end of the island, and atop it there is a bunch of seagulls, or there are a bunch of seagulls, and the seagulls are just making seagull noises, but you begin to realize at a certain point that the seagulls are mocking you. They're calling you foolish for being here. How do you feel when you realize this?
A cold sense of dread creeps into my stomach, I think.
Take that as a condition, cold sense of dread. And Corklook, what are you doing right now?
Mainly trying to keep Ethelinda between me and the siren. Kind of following Ethelinda's footsteps, peering about, trying to see if there's, I don't know, something you said in the last, in the invitation, something the siren said made me have the impression there would be some kind of small estate or formal grotto here, some kind of looking for the sunken dining room or anything that looks like, or smell of food, perhaps. I don't know.
Take a hunt roll.
Carrying 2 hunt tokens. Should I try and cash that crap in before I risk losing all this?
That's what happened. That's what happened to you last time.
Yep. First question, I need this skill and obfuscation come in handy here to attempt to figure
yes,
out where.
actually, yeah. Yeah, because there's clearly more going on here than meets the eye, right?
All right, so we got 2 dice. Let's just do it. Try 1 second. Not in the right part. The dice roller. 6.
Nice. From that like tall rocky structure at the other end of the island, you do hear something like a whistling sound, or it's either like the whistling of air, but it almost has like a musical quality, like a didgeridoo or something like that, right? Like kind of a whoa. Yeah, that's your clue that there might be something going on over there, and you get a token, of course. Well, Gleneth, what are you up to right now?
How large is this rocky outcropping compared to the boat? Are we talking about I can't see the other side of it? Or if I was like a day's travel away around, how are we size-wise? Tiny, right?
Oh, sure. You can make it to the rocky outcropping. I mean, it's not that far. I mean, it's probably, I don't know, I'd say it's like maybe 100 yards away, if that. And the whole rocky structure is actually, it sits a little bit above sea level. Like you actually have to, like, after you tie off, you actually have to like clamber up a little bit to get to the whole top of this little island. And then you have this like kind of structure that just looks like a sort of, like almost like a little, like a stalagmite or something, like kind of coming up out of the, at one end of it, like a horn. Right?
Mm-hmm. I think I would like to be looking for maybe hidden doors or other mechanisms, traps, kind of like this is either disguised an illusion or maybe physically hidden amongst the rocks.
Yeah, I think that's great. Go ahead and make a hunt roll.
I have too many tokens. That's not going to.
We do have a set goal here, incidentally.
Mm-hmm.
The set goal is enjoy a meal with the siren. So,
and enjoy is part of the set goal.
Yeah.
Hunt roll. I took a 2, thinking that my illusion and other things might help me in that
perfect.
regard.
Yeah. Don't you have traps as well, or something like that?
Oh, I do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I remember something like that.
Well,
yeah,
I'm
traps.
afraid. Yeah. I get a token, but something terrible happens.
Indeed. Take your token. We'll come back to that in a moment. Or you encounter something terrible. I think what you encounter is you're looking around, and I mentioned the wreckages of these ships, right? It's like the ships just like slammed up against the rocks, right? Or like we're violently wedged on them, right? And so you can kind of peer into the hulls of the wreckages, and you will I know what I want you to find. I'm trying to think how to present it. You will find what appears to be a message in a bottle that was perhaps never thrown, but was intended to be thrown. What do you do?
And I see that amongst the shipwreckage. This is me climbing up onto the rocks, and I can see down into and it's just sitting on.
Oh, sure, yeah, you just
like
see
that,
it.
right?
There's like a glimmer of the glass, and you see it like a. Yeah.
I make note of it, and I do nothing else.
Fair enough. So you have a couple of clues here. You've got this. Mainly this sort of like large stone structure which is making a sort of whistling sound, and there's all the wreckages of the ships, but knowing what sirens get up to, this shouldn't be completely surprising. What do you all do now? What's next? There's no one coming out to greet you.
Do any of these ships resemble in any way the ship that Osto saw from his orphanage?
Oh, you mean like barges?
Right. Like, could they have sent a second one that didn't make it, or
Make a hunt roll.
two for knowing the ship, or
Is that a skill? Do you have a skill, a relevant skill, or just the
Not
sort of
really.
like context of knowing what to look for? No, I don't think so. Yeah, just good effort, but
one?
um, you lose your tokens. The answer is no. There's nothing like that you can see. These all appear to be various types of. They were probably merchant vessels or maybe even pirates or something, but they were the preponderance of like busted up crates and spoiled goods makes you think they were some kind of vessel like that, some kind of trade or illegal or otherwise. And you go to 1, 2. So you will notice out across the way, across this, little ways out into the sea, you will see what appears to be a like a spear poking out of the water. This doesn't make any sense because spears can't do that in the ocean, but this spear is like poking out of the water and then it submerges. It's about, I'd say, it's still probably a good like 1/8 of a mile away. It's not super close, but not far. What do you do?
I think I'll grab Ethelinda's arm and kind of point out towards it and say, "Is your friend on his way now?"
I've never known him to carry a spear before.
Maybe
That
it's the kind
probably
of thing
doesn't bode
he
well.
only has around the house.
Maybe
And
he's fetching
welcome.
dinner.
Perhaps. Oh, I know. How about, can I use my mirage skill to do the same thing that I was doing that called him to me in the first place when I was like,
Oh, you began singing your song.
yeah, singing the song and, kind of doing what sirens do.
To try to get the siren's attention. Yeah, that's really good. Feels risky. I like it as a risk roll. What is the goal though?
Yeah, I think just to get him to come.
Okay. What could go wrong? Brian, Drew, Sarah, any thoughts? If the die roll fails. I think you could alert something else that is either an enemy or predator of the sirens, if there's such a thing. And gosh, whatever the predator of a siren is going to be, you probably don't want to meet.
I was thinking specifically harkening back to the crocodile from earlier. That hears is nearby, so it's very similar to what you have. A little less apocalyptic, perhaps.
Yeah. I noticed that the Kraken has a lot of support in the chat. So who knows?
What if you, because you're singing, right? What if you accidentally harmonize with the kind of whistling stone in a way that breaks something, kind of that shattering of glass, but I'm not sure what. Puts a crack in our coracle, maybe.
I break the horn.
Any other thoughts on what could go wrong?
So the first
It's
time you
just a-
sang, it was sorry. It was for an illusion spell, right? So maybe you cast an illusion that is going to make us unaware of a later threat. Or something will surprise us at some future point.
Sarah, what were you going to say?
Oh, it's a one-woman vote for the Kraken. That's just all me in the chat.
So let's talk about your dice. Ethelinda, do you have a relevant skill or piece of equipment?
I have. I have a mirror that possibly I could use to cast the illusion, like throw it.
I think you've done that before. That works for me. And Devil's Bargains, here's what's going to get interesting. My Devil's Bargain is no matter what, you attract the attention of whoever or whatever is holding that spear.
You're casting an illusion spell that attracted the siren the first time around. Is that right?
Yeah,
Ethelinda?
because it's like, because just so you have the right context, Sarah, they were in another plane of existence and Ethelinda was trying to steer a boat to her, and she did it by singing this like sort of song like a siren would, and it attracted an actual siren, but this was like in the astral plane, so it was like it was the siren's projection. They never actually physically encountered the siren. Yeah.
Interesting. Then perhaps no matter what, all of the ships that are stuck and pressed up against the rock structure are expelled out. Something like terrible happens and it backfires essentially.
I will offer up that you accidentally disguised the coracle, so we can't find it. We have to find another way back, and we have some explaining to do to my goblin friends about how we lost their precious turtle coracle.
I don't have anything top that.
Yeah, 3 options. Fraser, what do you think?
I think it makes sense that I attract the attention of the spear creature thing.
So take 2 light, 1 dark, and let's see how it goes.
A 5, and it's on the dark die, so I can't re-roll, right?
No, the most that could happen here is maybe someone can offer a help die, but they'd have to get a 6 on their help die for it to matter. Describe it.
So I think I begin to sing, and I sing at my mirror, and then tilt the mirror so that it like begins kind of like an echo, and it casts it out to sea, like it's ricocheting off of the mirror essentially.
Nice. And so this is like, what does it sound like then? How does everybody experience this illusion?
I think it would be like almost like a Celtic soft sort of sound, like something that's really appealing, right? So that people are drawn in and want to come to you. So something like that.
Very good. And so your mirage is making this like alluring song, and you succeeded fundamentally, and so you are going to get the Kraken's attention, but not before.
Siren's attention?
Or I'm sorry, the siren's attention. Yeah, sorry. We got Krakens on the brain now. But not, you're going to get the siren's attention, but not before a person who I can best describe as having very sort of shimmering aquamarine colored skin and hair like seaweed and wearing wearing like armor fashioned from fish scales and crab plate. They leap out of the water like a dolphin. They've gotten fairly close to the island at this point, and he says, "Ha, beast, I found you!" And he's ready to throw this spear at you. He is in fact going to throw the spear at you, Ethelinda. It's flying through the air. The spear's flying through the air. Ethelinda, I think you're too caught up in your reverie to sort this out. Korkaluk, what do? You might be first to be able to react.
Oh, I'm gonna try and tackle Ethelinda out of the way of this hurling harpoon.
Yeah, so this spear is like flying through the air, and you're going to try to tackle her out of the way. I love that. Trying to debate whether I want to go to a full risk roll here or not. I don't know. I think maybe not, because is your ruin going up, Ethelinda?
Yeah, I went up to 5 actually.
I think the way I like this is just that like maybe you do tackle Ethelinda, Korkaluk, but like it kind of like injures Ethelinda, like it kind of slams hard down on the ground. That's where your ruin comes from. And then the spear just sort of bounces off the rock. And this figure dives back down into the water, and you all can see now that there's a whole band of these creatures, these people. They're getting close to the surface. They have legs, but their legs have fins on the end, and they are like starting to cordon around the island a little bit. I think they're here siren hunting, and you made a siren-like song. And at this point, you will see the siren step out from somewhere on the other side of the rocky outgrowth, and he'll say, "Well, it seems you got more attention than you bargained for." To everybody.
Ethelinda, if you sing the song again, will they go away?
I don't think that's how it works.
Okay. Guys.
The siren will say, "Come with me quickly."
Does the siren seem at all nervous or put out by this sort of merfolk hunting party?
Not so much. I mean, I think he probably is, at this point, he's probably more bemused by the fact that Ethelinda's song convinced these hunters that she was a siren, right? I think that's probably more, he's probably more like interested or intrigued by that. But nevertheless, he's ready to get back to his lair and not deal with them. So
Yeah. I say always games with the siren, but I reluctantly withdraw, I think, towards him instead of facing an army of fish people.
assuming you all follow.
Yeah,
And avoid the army of fish people.
You can grab the spear, yeah. If you follow him, on the other side of the rocky outcropping, there is a fairly narrow gap in the rock. It is just enough to where if you turn, you can step in sideways, right? It's quite narrow. But once you step in, you're in like a little, there's just like a little narrow landing and then like a hole going down. And he says, "Regrettably, my people don't usually have need for stairs. And so getting down will be something of a trick for you. I shall do my best to help you, though." And he just drops down in to the darkness of this hole. Gleneth?
I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to go down this hole without a way back out this hole. So I'm going to start fashioning some series of knots with my seaweed rope and crab claws in preparation of whatever we're going to do here.
Osto, you can hear these hunters say, "I think the beast went that way, quickly!" And they're racing across the little rocky island where you all are at. They will be on you fairly quickly. What do you do?
I think I'll dip into the older bag of tricks, and I think Osto's going to roar like a bear in the hopes that it'll sound so scary that they won't come into the cave.
I like that. That's very good. Let's make it a risk roll. What could go wrong? Brian, Fraser, Sarah.
You attract an army of bears?
I don't know how that would happen, but I'm here for it. I think it just could be you have to combat these things a little bit, right? Like you just can't. You have to kind of deal with them before you can escape down the hole.
Maybe some sort of cave in. Drops the ceiling.
That's what I was thinking too, but it sounds more like a devil's bargain, maybe, or something.
It could be both, right? Let's talk about your dice, Osto. What do you have? You have beasts, I guess. It's a good
transformation.
Oh yeah, I like all that. And devil's bargains. Here's a good place for devil's bargain. Or here's a good place for some of these things that we talked about to make them a devil's bargain. I do like the idea of no matter what, the exit is sealed up in some way. It's a hard devil's bargain, but maybe somebody will come up with something better.
It strains your throat so you can't speak for a while.
Oh yeah, because you're not big, right? Yeah. You have to really like let it roar or really let it go to get a good roar out of it, out of your smaller larynx.
The roar, even if it's successful in terrifying the merfolk hunting party thing, like you hear a reply, like a faint reply. There is some orphan stranded nearby who we must go liberate. A shipwrecked orphan is still here on the island and calls out for help, hearing you.
That's pretty good, actually. It's great. Any other offers? Those are your choices, Osto.
I think I'll go with the orphan, because yeah.
Good. Just 2 dice for now. 2 light dice for now.
That's a 6.
Nice. Full success. You will get these merfolk hunters to back off long enough for everyone, long enough for Gleneth to finish her rigging and get you all down there, right? So describe it.
He'll kind of crouch next to the entrance, and he'll rub his throat and try and let a little bit of the bear out, but not enough to really affect things. But his teeth grow and his jaw kind of gets larger, and he just releases a really deep rumbling, just blast of sound that because it's a cave, it also echoes and makes it sound much more bigger than it would normally. And then he kind of slinks back, hoping no one saw that it was a 12-year-old boy who did this.
Nice. Now, yeah, the reaction will be like, they'll say something like, the sirens, they have some sort of foul beast down there. Fall back, fall back. And so they're falling back. They've probably never heard a bear, right? So you also hear there was someone following you. They weren't expecting the roar. It scared them. and they have tumbled like back and are now hanging from the rock, ready to drop down into the ocean. And you can hear them say, first you hear them go, ah, and now you hear them say, help, help. What's everyone else doing right now?
There's a thing I'm still curious about. When the siren dropped down, are they dropping like plummeting into water or just into darkness? And we don't know.
Just into darkness, yeah.
Perhaps while I was lowering down my seaweed rope, would I get any inclination of the length of drop, or if there is an end or dampness or anything in the bottom of this
yeah,
hole?
it does. You can see the bottom. Yeah, you can see the bottom if you have just a light source of some sort. So, assuming somebody has I don't think you need like it's just a small light source will do. So.
Would my illusion get me there? For a light source, can I produce light or not really?
Oh yeah, I'll take that. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's fine. Just like a little bit of like a ball.
I was going to offer. I think I still have a couple glowing tadpoles. I could, if they're still alive, drop one down.
Yeah,
I have candles too, but I don't think it'll work with all the wet.
Yeah.
In hearing help, can I offer a rope to Oslo and see if we can get help do we want to help this person?
Yeah, I mean, Osto, what do you think?
Yeah, he'll kind of curse and I have to go help him, help them.
And I press my rope that is tied to the inside of this place into your hand and wish you well.
Question for Drew: is there some sort of like a secret language that orphans have, so that you knew in that cry for help it was an orphan, like a coded word?
I don't think so, but it's a young person, right? Like, so he'd be concerned just for that.
If you step outside of the cave, Osto, you will see a boy hanging from a rock. This is a particularly high part of the island, and so it probably wouldn't kill him to fall down to the ocean, but this is maybe not a great place to be in the ocean. What do you do?
So he's above us, or
no, down below? Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'll start scrambling down. Hold on, just hold on, I'm coming.
I think you can get him. I'm not interested in rolling for that, as long as you have some kind of tool or rope or something, and especially with the help of any of your companions, you'll be able to hoist him up. He is, I'd say he's about 15, and scrawny for 15, but clearly not like a little kid. And he says, thank you. I've been hiding. I've been hiding for the last 2 weeks, doing my best to survive on this horrible place. Do you know of the creature that lives here?
I do. He's not always friendly.
I should think not. I saw that thing. I saw it. And he sort of shudders here, and he says, when our ship ran aground here, I saw that thing. Its horrible tentacles, its maw, plucking my shipmates from the hull like grapes on the vine.
we've been invited to dinner.
What a great place to take a break. Let's take 5. Okay, we're back. Well, you have rescued this boy. He identifies his name as Rosto. Tells you his name is Rosto. And he will tell you that his ship ran aground a couple weeks ago. He told you that already. The creature that lives on this island or in this island killed everybody who didn't die in the shipwreck. And he seems very obviously traumatized by that. In the short term, though, I think he's just like happy to be alive and not super thrilled with the idea of going into that little crevasse into the cave. But let's just pick up the scene from there.
Maybe he could guard our shell for us.
Or if you do come in with us, don't let on where you came from. And don't ask me any questions.
Is it wise? We know vaguely that he's not going to eat us, but we don't have any protections for just some kid we picked up, that he won't actually be dinner.
He says, I know how to take care of myself. I've survived on this island, on this horrid rock, when my fellows did not. And, well, I'm not ashamed to admit that we were privateers. We were pirates. We did terrible things. And I've seen terrible things. Perhaps nothing so terrible as that creature, but, well.
Fair enough.
And
I
he's
have
sort
a
of
rope
like,
down a hole.
he has like a little knife on his hip that he kind of like instinctively curls his fingers around when he says he's done horrible things, right? So
In that case, he could go first.
you have the way to climb down. He doesn't really want to go down there. He is happy with staying topside and keeping watch, if that's what you want him to do.
Perhaps not guard our boat, but just the entrance here and the little like landing with the narrow exit to the outside.
Yeah,
would be a good post for him. I'm fine with that.
And Asta will say, we'll try and bring back some food if it's edible.
Rosto says, you all are a very trusting, very, very trusting group of people. And not just because you are willingly going down into the hole, into the lair of a terrible sea monster, but I shall pay you back for saving my life by keeping a vigilant watch.
Great.
Who's going first?
I'll go first.
We're Ethelinda's guests.
Ethelinda, you're the first one down. And you are taken to like, it's like a little, cave sort of thing. It's probably not accurate to call it a grotto, except that because it's not exposed to the air, but it has a welcoming quality to it, this little cave. I think it is. I think the siren has taken some care to decorate it with things from the sea. Let's paint the scene. Everyone, just say as you all get down there, what do you see that shows the sort of the attempt by the siren to make a cozy place here? Oh, you're muted, Sarah.
Thank you. I imagine many of the sails and nets and natural kind of could be, I think most of those remnants of the ship could have been brought here and then affixed in some sort of drapery or curtains in areas, maybe to create rooms or ambiance.
Nice. Anything else?
Maybe there's some sketchings that people took, and it's sort of got that same quality of people who stage houses where they put generic pictures of people that aren't them there. He doesn't really understand why there's portraits of people or anything, but just wants a homey look.
Nice.
I think the floor has a like dried out woven kelp rug.
Feel like when I was a buyer for Pier 1, I probably purchased things like that. Dried seaweed mats and things.
Picturing, a rather large set of jaws from a shark being used as decoration, except all the teeth are missing.
Nice. In this chamber, which is not very big, if I'm being honest, but in this chamber, on one wall, there is a wall of water that is magically held in place. It's almost like a portal. And the siren approaches from this wall of water, which appears to be the entrance to like a longer tunnel. And he is his normal sort of beautiful self up to his waist, but below his waist, it's thick vermilion tentacles, like an octopus lower half. And he comes out of this wall of water and he says, "So, my actual proper home is this way. Your mannequin friend certainly doesn't have to worry about it, but the rest of you, I'm guessing, do not breathe underwater?"
You know that we don't.
Of course you don't. I'm just being conversational, Ethelinda. And he crawls towards you and he says, "I can take care of that." And he opens his mouth and you see that he has this like sort of, it's like water, but it's animated and sort of like almost like like some sort of slug or something, like kind of bobbing in and out of his mouth. And he comes forward and pulls you in close, Ethelinda, and opens his mouth very close to your mouth. And this stream of animated water will enter your mouth if you let it. Do you?
Sure.
And you can feel it filling up your insides. And when it's done, you can't breathe air anymore. And he says, "Quickly now, before you drown."
I guess I'll go in there.
And as soon as you walk through the wall of water, you can breathe again. He says, "Who's next?"
Sure.
And he will do this. Sorry,
I'll go next. I want to make sure this isn't, is it a fun party trick?
I don't know if I'd call it that. I think it's
I'm asking the siren if he thinks that this is a fun party trick.
He says, well, if you must know, in the bad old days, well, according to some of my kind, they were not the bad old days, but in the old days, when my people were more of a people and not solitary hunters, we used to keep servants of other races down in our watery realms, and it's important they be able to breathe.
That makes so much sense. And then I just kind of close my ears and wait for the sea slug.
Indeed. And he will do this again, and you can feel it's like your body's being filled with water and like being sealed up, and you can't breathe unless you go into that wall of water. Osto, are you receiving the gift of the siren?
Well, if everyone else is, yeah, he'll just kind of grimace and
eventually you are all, and Corkalick, you don't need to, you are walking down this corridor slowly, because you're still trying to kind of figure out how to make your limbs work in water, and you sort of half float and half walk if you can reach the bottom, but you manage to go. I'm curious, Corkalick, what is your buoyancy like?
Ooh, that's interesting. Right now I'm partially merged with a mangrove, so I might be a little more floaty than usual. I feel like porcelain tends to sink. I might gain a little water weight with the vines soaking in liquid. So probably not super buoyant.
Indeed. And he'll say, as he's leading you down this passage, he'll say, I see you found the rapscallion that's been hiding on my island for the last, well, I suppose it's been a week or so now.
Did you say that specifically to me or to everybody?
To everyone, just he's speaking aloud.
Were you the source of the fate that his crewmates met?
Oh, yes.
And how were they?
Oh, well, that's actually something I'd like to talk to you about. But, it was more of a, for old time's sake sort of thing, like when perhaps you were younger and didn't have a lot of money and had to settle for whatever cheap swill you could get your hands on, or low rent fare. It was like that. I find sailors to be gamey, briny, but it's not really the meat that makes them delicious, is it? It's the sound of their screams of terror as they are consumed. I like to keep them alive while I do it.
I imagine behind this conversation, because I'm dressed in a lot of veils and loose clothing, that progressing through the water has been a lot of like trying to get air out of a t-shirt and trying to and so I can't hear anything that's happening in this conversation.
It might be for the best. And he eventually, this little tunnel exits out into this like quite grander chamber. There are sharks and squids swimming around. There are sea anemones attached to the walls and floors. There's a table that is just like a slab of like old like timbers from a ship held up by coral legs, right? And on one end of the room, there is a sort of oval portal, for the lack of a better word, a sort of shimmery, silvery, swirling portal. It looks a lot like the Gossamer Void. And he says, please have a look around, make yourselves comfortable. I shall fetch dinner very soon. And he goes to one end of the room where there is like a quite small hole in the wall, and much too small for any of you to fit in. But his body is quite squishy and he can make it quite compact, and so he just like forces his way into this hole, and the tentacles just disappear into it. Let's have that scene.
Ethelinda, he seems lovely.
Well, one doesn't deny the company of a god.
Oh, I see. That makes all of this make so much more sense. I thought perhaps you had all been brainwashed and I was the only one that thought that this was a terrible idea.
Well, imagine if this is his way of inviting people, what he would do if he were upset.
That is now all I will think about during dinner.
Hopefully dinner isn't that rapscallion. That's what I'm hoping for. Not like I'm hoping that we do not eat the child. And also I want to spend a hunt token to find some treasures.
Nice. How many tokens?
Just one.
Okay. Let me get
Could I use a lot more in copycat?
To get another treasure as well. So you're getting one treasure, Ethelinda, correct?
Yes.
I'm currently sitting on 5 hunt tokens and not knowing what to do with them. I'm in a very precarious place.
You will find, Ethelinda, what appears to be a glass orb with a small, bright orange frog inside of it. Did you want to find something, Gwyneth?
I mean, if we're just kind of milling about the room while we're waiting for hors d'oeuvres, I think that walking around and poking in things, that'd be natural for me.
Yeah, I love it.
I'm not inviting either of you to dinner ever. You're just going to loot my house.
How many tokens are you spending? 3. Mm-hmm. You will find a pair of gauntlets made from squid leather. They're magical. Korkalik, what are you doing right now?
Wrestling with whether I want to join in on this looting or not also. It seems like such bad manners to be invited to dinner and then just like start pilfering the silverware.
You obviously have a special understanding, being is not quite of the traditionally lived beings. I don't know what is the PC, but he is a squid monster and it's okay to steal from him. He's very evil.
There is, in fact, nothing good about him. His species just admitted that his species, at least at some point in history, were slavers. So,
all sound points. Why don't I indulge in a little bit of the pilfering here, maybe to the tune of 2 gold?
Very well. You find a beautiful blue pearl. It's about the size of, it fits kind of in your palm. It's a good size blue pearl. He has it sitting on almost like a little table decoration, right? Like on a little stand. The pearl is also magical, and it's worth 2 gold. Osto, what are you up to?
I think Osto's going to be examining the swirling portal thing, and maybe being so bold as to reach out and stick a finger into it, see what happens.
Make a hunt roll.
Four.
Take your token. You are looking at the portal, and what appears to be just a swirling silvery, that sort of swirling silvery sort of ether or energy or environment that you remember from the Gossamer Void. It eventually gives way to a scene. The scene is, it's a village that looks pretty run down. You don't recognize it, Osto, at least not right away, or maybe not at all. But it's a rundown village. There's no one around. And this scene sort of transitions to a particular place in the village, which is a sort of large mill structure with a bright red roof. And you realize that something on top of the mill is looking at you. You don't see it right away, but you can tell that there's something there and it's watching you. What do you do?
He's gonna just take his finger out and maybe try and break line of sight with it. Just no, thank you.
So after time, the siren returns and he says, well, I am famished. I don't know about all of you.
I could eat.
Yes.
You know, it's interesting. When we met in the Gossamer Void, you don't know this, he says to Gleneth, but your friend here, perhaps she told you, perhaps she didn't, but your friend here, she managed to pull me physically into the Gossamer Void and trapped me for a time in the throne of the Rhyme Palace, which is no longer there, by the way. And the throne that I was trapped on floated in the Gossamer Void for what seemed to be ages, centuries, even a millennia. I lost track of time after a while. And then I returned here to discover that not much time at all had passed, but I brought the things that I learned during my long imprisonment in the Gossamer Void with me back to this realm of existence. And what I learned is that it's possible to sing my song across the void to other worlds. I no longer have to hope that my song gets caught on an ocean wind and overheard by some sailor in a crow's nest. No, Now my song can reach across space and time. And
How
he,
fascinating.
yes, well, and here's an interesting party trick since you asked. He goes to that swirly, silvery portal, and he puts his hand on it. And you see a man dressed in beautiful silk and gold finery, wearing a crown on his head. He says, I have been singing to this man for a number of days now. This is King Metet Ilsnor, the founder of the kingdom of Nagane, founded 1,000 years ago. History will record his end as having suddenly disappeared with no sign or trace, but we will know that he was drawn here by my song. And I think that would be a spectacular meal, don't you think? I do so infrequently have visitors.
That does sound amazing. And I turn to Ethelinda, whom I address as Lou. If I remember right, we're still disguising your name. And I say, Lou, it sounds like your tutelage once again has proven so useful. And those that you've taught in the past, I recall they've always paid you handsomely for your skill in educating in the musical arts, the trans-dimensional musical arts.
It's true, and I've taken such pains to get back here as well for this invitation.
So, trapping me in the astral plane was a lesson then, Lou.
What else could it be for a god?
He says, now, King Metet Ilsnor has been listening to the song coming from his mirror for the past few days, and eventually he will be brave enough to step through the mirror. And when the time comes, someone will have to strike him dead. I can do it easily, of course, but what kind of host would I be if I didn't give one of you the opportunity to do it?
It actually goes against our customs to eat other people.
He says, oh, that's very sad to me.
I mean, surely you must eat other than just primarily human flesh? I mean, surely I saw squid and sharks and other delicious beasties outside.
Yes, I suppose if you prefer that sort of fare, I want you to be comfortable more than anything. You won't mind, of course, if I partake.
It's your house. Of course you can.
But you could also do it when we're gone.
And he turns, ignoring you completely, and begins singing his song into the portal. What are you all doing right now? Asta, what are you doing?
Asta will frantically look at Korkuluk with wide eyes and just mime like push.
Well, I think he would be able to come back anyway, though, wouldn't he? Like, it's just a portal.
This is the same portal he went through to initially, right?
No. That was just like a hole in the wall. This is the portal that Osto was examining and saw a vision of a mill with something looking back at him.
I have an idea.
Is it just like a floating?
Yeah, it's just like floating, kind of like a door almost, right?
So there's no like frame or containment. No. Okay.
I have a weird idea that I
Thank
wouldn't
God.
mind trying.
We like weird ideas.
Yeah, I would like to try to either attune or mend. And what I want to do is sort of draw a bond between the siren and the person and sort of like create some empathy for his prey, basically.
So that he doesn't kill King Metadilsnor.
Yeah, and even maybe like, I don't know, grow back his empathy or put empathy in him or something like that to give him a conscience or something.
This feels very risky.
Yeah.
I think it. I mean, I think like it's an open question whether he ever had anything like empathy at all. But I like the idea.
I cultivate empathy in him.
If no one is, are you going to fix him, Fraser?
Yes.
If no one objects, I to this plan, I'd love to hear what could go wrong here.
Does no one object?
Ethelinda could lose her empathy. Just taking that to a next step, though, could Ethelinda's attunement and Osto's transformation, could we turn him human?
Oh, that's an interesting idea. Like you make
like
him
attune him biologically to the king?
Magic. You can magic with magic, I suppose. There aren't any real limitations. It's just whether you want to make the die roll or not, I guess. And whatever risks may come with it.
Do you think he'll be happy about being made a human?
Well, at least if he isn't, then we could beat him up because he's human.
Okay, and
if he doesn't have one of the mouth slugs, he won't be worried for long.
Well, that was my primary concern, is how do we know if he's now human if any of our slugs still work?
So it's a little risky.
All of these conversations sound great as part of a risk roll. As risk roll possibilities. Is this roll getting made? I think it's a wild idea. I think the stakes could be really wild and high. So, but that's what we came here for. So.
I just came here to enjoy a meal with the siren.
You can spend 3 tokens and that will happen.
Yeah, except we know what the meal will be, probably.
Well, no, because you will have to enjoy it. So I think he would serve you something that you'd be willing to eat, right?
Either way, this king from 1,000 years ago probably is dead, though.
Well, he will be in a minute.
He's technically dead now.
Yeah, but it might upset history too or something.
Or this is always what's already happened, and we'd be interrupting things by breaking this loop.
And then Rose and the doctor show up to stop you. Wah, wah, wah.
Morally speaking, I do not have a problem with him eating a man from the past. If that gets us out of this god's lair, then I'm kind of fine with it.
Well, but he's been haunting me through time and space since I've begun playing Ethelinda 2, so I don't think this will be like, and I'm done.
I would like to consult with the Book of Eternal Glory and see if King Metet Ilnor is listed in the Book of Eternal Glory.
Oh, what a great idea. I'll give you this for free. He's mentioned not as a hero. He is a great villain of history. He is a tyrant. He's kind of evil towards his people. And he was eventually overthrown.
Right. So I will read a little bit of this out loud to the siren, kind of, let me read from the chapter, if you will, in a sort of theological lecture way. And let the siren know of all the terrible deeds of King Metet Ilnor, and then question siren, like, generally speaking, aren't the innocent more tasty and delicious than the evil ones?
Well, I picked him because I thought it might, go down easier with a little bit of tyranny chaser.
So
I just like.
Is there anybody that we've been wanting to get rid of? Because I feel like I could make a fake entry here and guide him towards another target.
I mean, I think he's probably pretty well settled on his choice here. He won't make you eat it, especially if you spend 3 tokens. But he, I think he probably could even, if you spend the tokens, he might even be dissuaded from eating King Medit if you really want to avoid that. But King Medit was a bad guy, so if he meets, no matter how he meets his untimely end.
Or we could solve the siren problem forever.
I'm willing to let you try if you want.
So this was your scheme, Osto and Ethelinda. Osto, I'm going to make you do the roll since you were it was sort of your idea with a help roll from Ethelinda. What is the actual ritual that's taking place here, though? It might actually be Ethelinda. Well, neither of you have a ritual that does this, but you do have skills that might suffice to create a ritual-like effect if you're going through with this plan.
It could be that if we need a ritual to do it, the mirage, it could be like a permanent illusion in that we're convincing him that he is human or something.
He's convinced he's human. Oh, that's interesting too. What were we going to say, Sarah? Or Glynneth?
Well, if it's a matter of trying to solve the siren problem, I took Unravel. And so I would be able to even sort of take down the portal if we went for these simple shove him in and then don't know where he ends up from there. So in order for him to show up later, if we want.
That could be really fun too. Like you just because it keeps him as a possible future villain, but he's not a problem right now, Yeah.
It's Ethelinda's choice.
Yeah.
I really like the idea of trying to convince him that he's... Sorry, go ahead, Drew.
No, great.
I was just saying I like the idea of trying to convince him that he's human, that you're not physically changing him, but changing his self-perception.
So let's take a vote. We have 3 options. Actually try to physically transform him, just trick him into thinking he's human, or shove him into the portal and close up the portal behind him. Those are 3. I love all of them. I have no horse in this race. So option 1, an actual physical transformation.
I would like to defer my vote to whatever Ethelinda votes for.
Option 2, we convince him he's human. It's 1 vote. That's 2 votes. Then that's the winner. So, okay. So Ethelinda, I think it's your role with maybe help from Osto. Then in that case, what could go wrong, Brian, Drew, Sarah? If I feel like there's a million things that could go wrong, but I want to hear some ideas here.
So one thing, if it goes wrong, he brings King Metet through, but in the attempt at attuning these 2 together, it becomes kind of a weird, like when somebody chews on their own fingernails and kind of ingest their own body matter, it turns into a very weird sort of cannibal, self-cannibalization situation for them.
I'm going to say what could happen is whatever was looking at you, Osto, on the other side of the portal, wherever that place was, it reaches into where you're at, all of you, and maybe even pulls you into it. So while everyone's guard is dropped, right?
Kind of building on both of those, what if Malphast takes over the siren.
Oh, I'm not confirming who or what is looking at you.
Oh.
You have guessed that is the demon Malphas, but I haven't said that.
Sorry. The evil force that's a mobile and very dangerous body outside of its location.
Yeah, that'd be great. Well, let's talk about dice. Ethelinda, do you have a relevant skill?
I've got attunement and mending.
Oh, okay, I like that. Yeah, you're kind of. Although here in this case, you're not really trying to fix him anymore, right? You were trying to change him.
Yeah, but what about attuning to like him as a person, like attuning the siren to, I don't know, me or another
to
person.
Humanity or something. Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I'm into that. Okay,
You
got
had
your
also
light die.
said Mirage earlier, that you were maybe going to use some of that to cloud his mind and make him think that he was human. Does that help?
That's the ritual.
Yeah, that's the ritual that's happening. Okay, so you got one light die, we'll say, for attunement. I'm into that. And Devil's Bargains.
No matter what happens, he understands that you have changed him and only wants to eat you from here on out, no matter what happens.
I'm going to say no matter what happens. No matter what happens, because again, everyone's guard is dropped. That thing on the other side of the portal that Asta was looking at, it doesn't interrupt the scene necessarily, but I think you see it. It shows itself.
Remixing my what could go wrong, whatever it is possesses King Metet and is in our time.
That's
now.
really good. Yeah, I like that a lot, actually. So like whatever that thing is on the mill, it sort of manages to reach across time and space and fuses with King Metet. And so now it's like that thing and King Metet back in the current world, or back in the world. Yeah, that's a cool idea. Yeah.
I don't think I have anything better than those.
What do you think, Ethelinda?
So that last one sounds fun. I like the idea of like, I always like the idea of when you use magic, it like doesn't really solve anything. It just makes it like remixes stuff.
Absolutely. Fabulous. And take a dark die for your ritual. So 2 light, 1 dark, and then help from Osto if you need it.
A 4.
Let's take a look at
That's a 6.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, nice. 6 light, full success. Sounds great.
Transformation was the secret sauce.
It was indeed. Let's have the scene. What does this look like?
I think Ethelinda has been preparing some like this notion for a while, and so has like prepared. What do I have? I have the hourglass. I think I've like charmed the hourglass in some way, like pre-done this ritual with it. And what I actually do is I shatter the hourglass and take the sands that have been charmed and I throw it at the siren. And then I say, Osto, now!
What happens, Osto?
Osto will reach up to his mouth and take a small bite out of his palm and then smack the glass to add some of his beast bitten blood to the mix.
Nice. And this sort of strange sympathetic magic that's happening causes him to appear as his just normal, beautiful human self. And we'll get to his reaction in a moment. But while this is all happening, Korgaluk, you glimpse through the the portal where King Metet is. And he's standing very, very close to the threshold, right? Looking, seems like he's looking at you or into the room, but he's not making direct eye contact. It's unclear if he can tell what's going on. But he says, I've seen you in my dreams, and I'm coming to you now. I believe I must come to you. You have called to me from wherever you have called to me from. And now I answer that call. And he appears to take a step forward, but he doesn't step into the room where you're at. Instead, the scene changes to be that mill, a mill you recognize, Korkaluk. You were at Hester's Mill, right?
Yeah, it was.
It is Hester's Mill. It is the mill. It is the mill house. It is that structure. You recognize that red roof, and the most immediately recognizable thing is you see the demon Malfast. Drew was correct. You see the demon Malfast atop the red roof. The demon Malfast, of course, appears as a giant crow surrounded by a bunch of smaller crows, like little baby crows, and all of them are inside a nest of oily black tentacles. And the giant crow opens its beak, and you hear someone, a man, screaming, pleading for his life. He says, "Help me! Oh my gosh, help me!" And the crow regurgitates a soldier that appears to be half dissolved, bone exposed, flesh melted off. And the crow regurgitates the soldier down to the little crows, who then tear him apart and feast upon him. And the scene changes, and you see King Metet Ilznor kneeling at the base of the mill, as if worshiping Malfast like a god. And that's where the scene ends. Let's take a 5-minute break. Korklik, I think you're the only one who saw this scene. I am curious how you're feeling about it.
Only one who saw the scene of King Metet kind of groveling before Malfast. Is that what you mean?
Oh yeah.
Okay. My initial reaction is to basically say I've had a lovely evening, and oh, look at the time. It's time for us to skedaddle. But I need a little help on sort of physically what's where. My head kind of is a little jumbled right now on which gates are open, and is the king here underwater with us?
No, the king is in Hester's Mill.
Okay.
He was in wherever he was, his palace or whatever, and then he stepped through a portal on his side of the world, but it stepped him in through Hester's Mill. I don't think he's aware of you all at all.
Okay. Is the siren put out that dinner just went to a different realm?
Siren's got other things to deal with, which we're going to talk about in a moment. He's busy thinking he's human now. So Siren's not aware of any of that. Yeah. This is just for you.
Okay, so how am I feeling?
You're the only character who was actually at Hester's Mill, so
yeah. Tying back to that birthing dream, and where I learned the scarecrow ritual, I feel like things were left undone, and maybe that wasn't the most prudent choice in the moment. Kind of wishing that Dion and Rasay were around to better understand,
finish what you started,
and understand the magnitude of what just transpired. That thing we left behind is still malevolent and potent.
You did make a conscious choice as a group to not face Malfast, to just leave Malfast there. So
I think we needed to find out more about Beatrix Mandrake also, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
general people, I feel like if we can close this portal, it might be prudent.
let's go back to the sort of main corpus of the scene here, which is the siren stands up on 2 feet and he looks at his hands and he says, and he's not drowning, by the way, and he says, "What did you do to me?"
We crafted you a new body.
Are you saying that I'm human?
As human as I am.
Will I also get very old?
Perhaps.
Why would you do something like this? Have I not been nothing but amicable and generous with you all?
I'm going to take sides for a moment. I'm going to point at all of you fleshy beings and say, don't you try and pull that crap on me.
He says, I don't know what to make of this. Do I have to go and live in one of your cities now?
You can do what you like, but I'm
How
sure
can
you're...
you tolerate the smell of those places? Concentration of filthy human bodies. It's detestable.
You really have no idea.
I do have a sense of it, though. Every time I've cracked open a ship, I am first aware of the rather pungent odor inside. You all have a sort of way of being when you're trapped in enclosed spaces with each other for a time.
And now you're one of us.
Maybe consider it an opportunity to learn new things.
And he just sits down in a coral chair around the table. And he just is like, every time I'm around a human, all I can think about is what their terror must taste like marinated in blood. And right now, that feeling has left me. I am strangely overcome by the desire to know what a cake tastes like.
I'd say it's a good thing you hunger for new things and not the old.
And he says, I'm afraid I'm going to have to call it an early night while I figure out what to do about this situation.
Having watched this take place, I would have been standing in somewhat just watching a transformation happen at a dinner party where we really couldn't ever decide on what course was going to be served. But I was curious if I noticed any physical change in the portals at all? Was there a light shift in the room or any of that? Because I'm kind of naturally inclined.
You mean the portal that the Gossamer Void portal that he was sort of drawing King Meta out through? Yes. I mean, I think you would be aware that like there was, I mean, probably you saw Corkulix staring into it, right? And so you probably would know there was something going on at that point. If you want to give me a punt roll, though, I'll deepen what you saw.
I would like to do a hunt roll. I don't know if my illusion or prophecy skills really give me anything.
Oh, I like the illusion. I think is good. You're probably used to like dealing with magical energies and phantasms and things and glamours.
I'm going to take 2.
Go for it.
I got a 6.
Nice. I think you'll be aware that the portal you're specifically asking like whether there was some kind of like whether you would have been aware of like what Corkulix was seeing, basically, like you saw that, or what?
I guess I wouldn't have thought that I could see into the portal, but I thought maybe that there might have been a power shift, I guess, or some sort of fluctuation in the light, or
Sure.
how these portals were represented here.
Absolutely.
Not necessarily what I'd see beyond it.
Yeah, the moment when King Medet would have stepped through to where the demon Malfast is, the portal, your side of it would have surged and swelled. It would have swelled with like a kind of power, right? It's almost like the siren's magic was the conduit that allowed that crossover to take place, right?
Then I suppose I would walk over and stand behind Corkulix's shoulder as he's looking into this portal and ask him, do you think we should close this before we leave?
Yeah, that'd be a prudent idea. I will address the siren and say, look, you expressed a desire for cake. I happen to be part owner of a tavern that's sulking auspicious Saltfather, and I'll pull out a little wooden token good for a free drink. And we make a delicious, absolutely amazing cherry tart with a raspberry glaze that's actually truly made with little bit of actual blood. Don't, it's a secret recipe. We don't like to admit it, but I think it would be just the right transitional treat for you to.
I don't understand any of the words coming out of your mouth, but I gather you want me to come with you to get on a boat.
No. Eventually, you could. When you're in Amberette next, I would definitely stop by. It's just a recommendation. But in the meantime, this portal here, I think we're done with it for now. If we're concluding the evening, it's probably most prudent if we just shut the door on that chapter of your life and move on to the next thing.
I don't even know if I can anymore. I feel all of my power has drained away from me. The ancient magic that was suffuse through the ink-like blood of my people drained away when I became a stinking cave dweller. No offense. Like all of you. Or most of you.
Siren, is your blood truly still inky? Have you, is it worth? Should we just take a little look?
I care not for these philosophical discussions. Do what you will with the portal. Do what you will with this place. And he sort of walks back towards the passage that goes into his little home. And he says, I'm going to learn how to make my way in the realms of man. You may have changed me physically, but my mind is still sharp as ever. I still have all of my ancient secrets, my ancient knowledge, and I shall put those things to use.
feel like my ownership in this tavern that happens to be named the Sulking Auspicious Salt Father might be named for this siren.
Well, he sulks off to, to down the corridor, leaving you all there.
I'd be happy to try my hand at closing down this portal. Do we even know where it goes? Is this useful to us?
I think what you should have surmised maybe is that while he was in the Gossamer Void, which is like what we call the astral plane, he learned how to use that astral, he learned how to use that energy essentially to reach other worlds and times. And this is the medium through which it does it. Yeah.
So asking those of my party who actually have traveled in time and space, I'm still just of this time and the current very wet space. Do we want this portal closed? I could help.
Jason, I do have one question. Was Hester's Mill looking as overgrown and decrepit as it was when I was there? Or you mentioned a red roof. Was it like in its heyday when Malfest?
No, it looked exactly as it did when you left. Yeah. The mill was quite intact as compared to the other buildings.
Okay.
Does that mean we stopped Alistair's plans to rebuild?
I don't know, actually. Yeah, that was something that happened as well. He was going to go and repopulate that part of the world, but you all burned down his house and maybe him. So yeah, it seems like that never went underway.
Sorry, not sorry.
Your trail of destruction is catching up to you. And in the case of Malfast, your trail of inaction, Gorbaluk, may be catching up to you.
Trail of inaction, that's a good phrase. I don't know that I have some knowledge of myths and artifacts, but I don't know if I really know how to close down a portal.
Well, I think Gleneth could do it with Unravel. I think that's what Gleneth is suggesting.
Okay. Seems worth it.
I'm open to it. So if you want to do it, if you want to give it a show, give it a go.
Happy to. I was just wondering if that was the best plan.
I
didn't see anything beyond this portal. I don't know anything about it.
It's a risk roll.
Okay.
What could go wrong? Fraser, Drew, Brian?
Gleneth, there's a demon on the other side, so it's worth closing down.
What?
The bird-faced vomitorious demon on the other side who is now in league with a 1,000-year-old king. So yeah,
an evil
1,000-year-old
king.
Sure, yeah, I think that's worth the risk. Let's shut this bad boy down. What could go wrong, I think? Yeah.
One of the fishy monsters from the Gossamer Void could swim right through as it's closing.
Oh, you have to deal with it. Yeah, I like that. That's what I was going to say was something comes from the Gossamer Void that you have to deal with, right? Yeah.
I was going to say it is for somehow like sustaining this area of the house.
So it all collapses on you. Yeah. Or you unravel more than you planned, right? Yeah.
Let me ask a little more, Sarah. As you unravel the ritual, do you know what you're going to re-ravel it to or where? Like that might help me guide me on what goes wrong.
Well, it allows me to unspool magic and then I can put it someplace else. So I imagine as I collect baubles and things, like I have this marble on a string that has a little tiny bird skull in it. I could, in theory, take that portal magic and just kind of weave it around.
I like that.
Object I'm wearing.
Yeah, I'd let you make that it'd be a magical item at that point. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't necessarily relocate it into a room. My move would be to like capture these things that I'm unraveling and then save them to weave something later, like scraps, constantly picking up threads. And
a portable door to the Gossamer Void could be very helpful.
So I'm not sure if this is a what can go wrong or a devil's bargain, but it sounds like you've got a collection of marbles and string that you're just not sure which one you linked it to.
Oh, so it could explode at any time.
Well, like, you're like, it's this one. Oh, wait, hang on, nope.
That'd be a great devil's bargain.
I think it's the red one. It's the red one.
That'd be a good devil's bargain.
So you literally lose your marbles?
Let's talk about dice, Gleneth. Mending maybe could, in a sort of weird way, like a reverse mending kind of. Yeah, I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on skills or equipment? Or maybe, if you're using one of your little items as well,
yes.
that could stand in for that first light die. So I like that. If you're trying to like attach it to one of your little objects. Devil's bargains. Do you want to offer that as a devil's bargain, Brian? Like this idea that no matter what, it gets it won't work.
No, I literally have a bag of marbles, and this marble. So It would be very easy to get them mixed up.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Like no matter what, the magic, some sort of magic, I like it. I'm going to frame it this way. No matter what, some kind of magic gets attached to a marble in your sack. You just don't know what it is. You don't even know what it does. And so, yeah. Because that can be satisfied whether it fails or succeeds.
So right now my dice is 1 light or 2?
It's 1 light plus 1 dark for the ritual. And if you accept a devil's bargain from somebody, you'll get a second light die. And so I've made my bargain, which is no matter what, one of your marbles gets magicked in some way, and you don't know which one, and who knows. And I will reveal it at a time and place of my choosing.
How convenient for you.
Devil's bargain, no matter what, you have to give it a secret to cast the spell, like we all did.
Oh, you have to. Oh, that's good. So, Gleneth, for them to enter the Gossamer Void, they had to like speak an uncomfortable truth, and so that's what Drew is saying. You would have to speak an uncomfortable truth about Gleneth aloud that everybody can hear.
I like that a lot. Anybody else?
No, I don't have anything.
I've got a half an idea, but I need help completing it. I want to tie it back to the Chancellor of Yoga Carta Lyceum, but I don't quite know what the twist is, because it seems that's too far distant, or what I'm picturing is just too far distant.
Oh, give me a moment. I can come up with something.
Well, I thought that because I liked the idea of taking the uncomfortable secret option, I could actually speak to the reason why I need to humiliate him. So I think you and I had both halves of that idea.
Go with that one then, yeah. So 2 light, 1 dark. So roll risk 2-1. Looks like a 4 light.
And a 4 light.
The complication is going to be, the nice thing about being the GM is I can make my devil's bargains into complications. The complication is going to be one of your marbles is magicked and you don't know which one. If you don't want that to happen, you can add a dark die and try again to get a 6.
This was somebody trying to help out, or no?
Unless Sarah might be okay with this result, in which case it's up to Sarah whether she accepts the help or not.
30 marbles in my sack, there is one that has a random GM specified the magic spell attached to it. But do I succeed?
You do succeed still.
Then unraveling the portal. And then do I get to attach that spell to my marble as I planned?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, that all succeeds because a 4 or higher is a full success, is a success. A 4 or 5 though is like I get to add my little wrinkle to it, right? If you'd gotten a 6, I wouldn't get to add my wrinkle. So, but yes, everything else you were trying to do works.
what you guys see is Gleneth will kind of start to make motions in the air like she's stitching, like she's pulling and literally pulling at threads on the outside of this and winding as she's walking towards it, as if she's spooling yarn around an object and capturing this spell and attaching it to her. And slowly it goes out. And there's a little bit of a shiny ribbon effect on the string, and then it just disappears.
Nice, I love it. Make a note about your little bird marble having a gossamer void effect. It's a magic item now, which means if you keep it, it has to increase your burdens, but we'll settle that after the adventure is over. And then you have this other marble, just make a note of that as well, which you don't know about, but maybe something will happen. We're going to end this session.
Do we need a secret about the Chancellor as well?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
You have to speak your uncomfortable truth aloud. That's right. Thank you.
I'm muttering to myself as I'm doing this, and I'm winding, and you guys hear as I'm slowly finishing off the portal as it collapses that the Chancellor took my wings.
It's dark, but I like it. The session ends with all of you having gathered in this sort of non-watery, the foyer, if you will, of the lair, getting ready to climb your rope back up to the surface. When you hear a scream coming from the surface, you will go to the top to see what you can see. And you see Rosto laying on the rocks, quite dead. The siren is standing over his body. He's drenched in blood. And he says, "It seems sometimes you can't always change a person, can you? Some things are always going to be the same." And we'll end right there. Stars and wishes.
I really like that the sort of side offering became such a huge thing with so much more lore attached to it, where we learned more about Gleneth as well as Ethelinda and some of the siren as well, and that yeah, I really liked that. Who with magic, it just sort of like remixes your problems. That was really fun. Oh yeah, and I liked everybody indulging me with my weird idea. Wish, just to see what ends up happening with the siren. I'm curious what we do with him now.
Yeah, I'm going to say star for this was an interesting session because you were all very successful in what you're trying to do. You avoided having to eat someone. You avoided the siren eating someone. You escaped a group of merfolk hunters. You did all these things. You shut down magic. You did big magic. And yet I feel like the group is nowhere near better off. You know, like you were very successful while making everything way worse, and I'm here for that. I think that's great. The wish that I have is I am, as a GM, I'm ready to go into this like, you know, we have these like kind of big campaign threads that are kind of hanging in the air. There's the Patience Day Viziothto rivalry, which we'll get back to at some point. There's now this new thing with Malfast and King Medit Ilsnor and whatever that means. And the Malfast problem has been something that's been threatening to come back at some point anyway. And then we have this like siren who is maybe no longer a siren in his mind at least, but he is still clearly 100% dangerous, and is maybe functions in a different way now in the setting, right? Almost like a Jack the Ripper style character. And so I love all that, and I'm just very excited to kind of see how to play with it and weave it into the bigger story. So yeah, I'm very happy about that.
It better warn the goblins at Seeker's Rest that there's a homicidal lunatic just across the way. I will add in some stars. This had some fun auditory stuff with Ethelinda, doing an excellent siren song. Osto doing the bear cave, or sorry, yeah, the bear roar in the bear cave, I guess, whatever, you know what I'm trying to say. What else? Oh, Jason, you had a line, you talked about plucking my shipmates from the hull like grapes from the vine. That was fabulous. Just a great image overall. Wishes, I kind of wish to go back to Hester's Mill and see what's going on with King Metet. Might not live to tell the tale, but it seems like a good roundabout thing to look forward to.
An interesting thread to pull for sure. Yeah.
Thanks for using thread to pull just there. That'll be one of my stars for sure. Other stars, I really like playing, or at least understanding my character in this group as someone who has not shared their time and space adventures. That's been like fun character development for me, wondering, oh, I'm sorry, you did what to that man's house, and how did there's a lot of that I keep bumbling into. That's
I'm really glad.
I don't want
to sorry to interrupt you, but I'm really glad, because one of the things I always worry about with like a new player in a reasonably established group is that player feeling alienated by what came before in the adventure. So I'm glad you're not feeling that way. So
it's certainly something that can happen, but I experience it as a character, and so then it's fun as like, oh, I'm sorry, Ethelinda, is this your former boyfriend? What is this? Oh no, he's from time and space. He's a god. Okay, great. Let's just roll with that then.
I like how he got a promotion to a god, because I don't think he ever called himself a god.
This is what Gleneth knows now. Wishes, I too am excited for the potential like Jack the Ripper vibe from the siren in the future. Seems like this man always ends up covered in blood, and so I think we should just continue on that bench.
Well, and it's such I very purposely said that little bit about like stinking human cities, right? Because it's like such a serial killer trope to be like, oh, I hate the filth of humanity, right? This stinking, filthy city. It's like a tropey thing, but I was kind of leaning into that because I already knew where this was going. So yeah.
And then wishes for personal character growth. I really like this idea that I'm this kind of magic gatherer, weaver type person, and I'm going to end up with a lot of potentially eccentric magical weirdness, and that's always a character that's fun to play. So no matter what you guys end up in.
Thank you.
Stars for me were just I think the way we all kind of worked together with the what could go wrongs and the devil's bargains. We had some real fun. That was really cool. And also just the whole siren thing. Yeah, this whole session was a big star, the way we solved the problem, even though we didn't get to push anyone through a portal,
Was that everybody? Any wishes, Osto or Drew, rather?
Wishes, I also hope Osto gets to see Hester's Mill and maybe see what's going on there with if Alistair That'd be a good route for Alistair to make another appearance.
I know, because we do have that as a sort of another like kind of, it was a smaller plot thread, but it was definitely something that came up. Yeah, I'm intrigued by that as well.
I can show you where I share breath with a bear.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, I'm very excited about the possibility of going back. I'm curious to see what happens with that as well. So yeah, it should be really fun. Awesome. Well, we have one more session in this, or is it two? It might be two. No, one. We have one more session in this little run of trophy gold in order to hopefully wrap up Leviathan's Bridge, and then we'll be, of course, kicking off the between after that. So I'm going to get some between sessions there, and then depending on how long we kind of like keep going, I think, and there's no reason why we shouldn't. I would maybe just like to like, if you're enjoying the between, maybe just kind of flip-flopping between the two campaigns, you know, like do some trophy gold, do some between, and kind of just go back and forth. But the between, I don't know, Sarah, I don't know if Brian mentioned it to you, but it's like it's about like monster hunters in Victorian era London. They are, yeah, it's kind of it's based off Penny Dreadful. It's inspired by Penny Dreadful and things like that. So it should be a good time. Awesome. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.